Awesome. Okay, let's start with the release process semantic versioning agenda item. And I think Wesley, you had submitted a PR. I can open that up if that works.
Yeah, an issue. It's 4235. Uh, 35.
Oh, okay. Okay, awesome. So yeah, I think I took a look at this, but maybe if you could give us a quick summary, that'd be great.
Yeah, so the idea is basically just that we adopt a release process and versioning process that's I think is more standard and more close to what a lot of other projects follow. So we strictly follow semantic versioning. So currently we're not following that because in the final version, the patch version, we do sometimes launch new features.
Yep.
And so then if we strictly follow semantic versioning, we will have more minor versions. So then the proposal is that we have a monthly cadence for minor version bumps because that's the only time you can have new features. And then additionally, currently like we have a new minor version series like once a quarter, and then we do patches on top of it for an entire 3 months. The final idea is that if we're doing a new one every 1 month, that we should have patches should go to both the current version and the previous version. So like if you have 1.9 in November and 1.10 in December, and you have a patch comes out on Christmas, you give that patch to both 1.9 and 1.10 until you hit January, and then you deprecate 1.9 because then it's more than 2 months old. And yeah, you could do more than two versions, but I think two versions would be pretty reasonable. I think folks would be pretty happy with that. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So it'd be like, okay, this year we'll probably have 1.7, 1.8, 1.9. And then what we go to is like we have 1.10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Like every month, essentially, we have a new feature release. And then we would support that the latest feature release with any patches, and then n-1 for, I don't know, the length of 1 or 2 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, being late. Hey.
So, hey, he said, hey, Eduardo. Yeah, we're just chatting about this new versioning proposal for semantic versioning for Fluent specifically. And then Wesley just went over a bit of like how we'd expect it to work, where we basically have now a new monthly cadence, which are features only, or sorry, not features only, but will allow for new features. But if we do patch releases, say at the weekly or bi-weekly cadence, those are only for fixes, bug fixes. And that way, if a user gets, say, 1.8.9 today, they might get new features in the current way we do releases. But in the future, they would only get patch and bug fixes in the patch release.
Yeah, I think that, for example, yeah, we understand, right? People who got this problem of our release cycle is pretty fast. So I think that what Wesley proposing is to address two things, right? One is stability, right? That affects everybody. And like don't introduce breaking change in a current stable release, which makes totally sense. And I think that we should do that, right? And the other is like to decide how long we can support a past series, right? And I think that is, to be honest, is really hard because that also involves packaging, images, change repositories, restrictions that we have at the moment. at the moment, for simplicity, for a map stream process, I think that what makes sense is to just continue patching the current series. Maybe what we can do is to extend the period of a current release. For example, right now we are in 1.8. I think that 1.8 is getting a very stable phase right now. But because we did very invasive changes this year, multi-threading, DNS, there are many things going on, but I would say that right now it's getting pretty stable. Maybe what we can do is to extend it a little bit. What we cannot do from a packaging perspective, which is different, is like if we are in 1.9, start creating packages for 1.8, Docker images. In the main one, we have 1.9. That would be really complex, a really complex change. Unless we just tag the releases on GitHub and we just let every company user decide how to handle that.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. So if it's too much work to actually put out new releases for everything but the like current most active series, I mean that's not the end of the world. That's fine as long as we could just like get the tags on GitHub. Yeah.
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 Release notes would be nice too. Like if you put out like that, you know, what patches were included in that tag.
Yeah.
At
So
least on GitHub.
So maybe I think we have a good set of decisions here, which is like we all feel that stability should be addressed. And one way to address this is to make it much more predictive on the versioning, what's going to be in it. I think we can all agree that we can look at like this monthly feature cadence. And then for the backporting of the patches, we can say at the very least, we can do the tag. I think that to me sounds like a pretty good decision, and we can keep revisiting it month over month.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
Okay.
what we need to agree, I think that we should work in just one series. Two series, I think that is more complicated, right? I don't know if you agree with one. And the other thing, yeah, tag should be fine. Yeah, I have zero problem with that. Yeah, I think that would be the way to go. And yeah, how often we make the major release? I mean, I call major right now because we are still at version 1, right? So I call major 1.8, 1.9, 1.10. How often we do those? As of now, it's always 3-4 months. I think that we can keep that phase, right? Because we are not adding many new features. If we say 1 month, I think that is too invasive. Maybe keep it on 3-4 months or as a minimum, right? Because we always have other things that are being implemented, take some time to develop and get in there to production. Also, if we extend the major release time from 3-4 months as a minimum, right? We make sure that we have more time to apply, to give more room for the bug fixes for the stable release, for the current stable, right? So more is what I'm trying to say is like, as more time 1.8 is live, is better for the user.
Yeah, but then okay, if we keep the new series only starting every 3 months, then you have to wait 3 months for features if you're strictly following semantic versioning. So maybe 1 month is too frequent, maybe 2 months is better, but I think you wouldn't. I don't want to, if we're going to follow semantic versioning, and I want to follow semantic versioning strictly, I think we have to increase the speed, the cadence at which you would get feature releases. Otherwise, right now you get features very, very occasionally. Now you're saying you get them much less frequently, only once every 3 months.
Okay, so let's take a look at this from a different way. Let's use semantic version as an inspiration. But if we follow semantic version, it will not work for our users, right? Our primary focus should be the users. So let's use semantic version as an inspiration. Let's take what works for us from them, and we adapt it, right? So because Wesley, I think that we were discussing yesterday with other folks too. It's like, okay, there are two areas in Fluent. One is the core, right? Core like retries, buffering, scheduling, DNS, all that stuff. And the other are the plugins. And I totally get that as AWS, as a vendor, you want to introduce, for example, a feature for your users, right? It's simple. A missing flag that exists in Fluent D connector, and now you have it in Fluent Bed, and you don't want to wait 3 months, right? So I think that what we can do in those cases is like, if AWS is responsible to maintain the AWS connectors, and you're sure that this change will not break your users, I would be totally fine to include that in the current series and not wait 3 months, right? I don't know if for example, we as Calyptia, if we modify our Calyptia plugin, yeah, we don't want to wait 3 months to add more value to our users, right? So if it's inside the plugin scope for that is maintained by the vendor or by a company specifically, I'm talking about Stackdriver, S3, or Calypso plugins, I think we can add new features on them, right? Because at the end of the day, who will be affected are your own users, your own customers. We are not affecting the whole community. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, so that would be acceptable to me. As a trade-off. In the AWS distro, we do follow semantic versioning to the best of our ability. We try to translate what we're getting from upstream into a strict following of semantic versioning. The reason is because I think that folks understand semantic versioning because it's very common. At least for my users, I don't want to introduce a new versioning scheme because that they have to like learn. It's best if it just follow standard practices. So that's why I'm choosing there. I would prefer to do the same in the upstream project. But I think that trade-off of core is guaranteed to only have real non-bug fixes in a new series, but plugins might have features, and then we can version it ourselves. That's acceptable.
Yeah, because if we make a monthly cadence of versions, sorry, for example, minor versions, recall right now 1.8.9 that is out today, that is a minor version, right? That one can be out anytime based on how critical are the issues that we're fixing, right? And that happened to AWS and other companies too. Hey, we have a critical issue this customer is affecting. It's a bug fix, pretty simple. Yeah, let's ship a new version. No problem with that. We also do minimum 1 week, right?
How are we going to do? I think it's good. I think the bad part though is that we are responsible for the series behind as well, and that's, I know that's a
Yeah,
long time. That's 6 months.
No, the thing is, Anurag, is like, for example, with minor releases like 1.8.1, 1.8.2, that's pretty fun. I think that is not the problem. The problem is that we say we're going to jump between 1.8, 1.9, 1.10 every month. It will be a mess, and we are going to fragment the users and versions, right? There's a downside to that. That's what I'm saying. If we follow strictly the semantic versioning schema, it won't work for our own development phase and users adoption. That's what I'm saying. Let's take the best for it that works, that we think that is the best for our users. Because maybe in other projects, they are not releasing a new version every week, right? And here we see the new deployments 2-3 million times a day. And people needs to do that, right? So, and if we have 3 series, like 1.8, 1.9, and 1.10 being maintained at the same time, it will just lead to confusion, right? Maintain different release node, backporting changes will get more complex.
So we're saying we're not going to support the previous version.
Yeah, I think that we can support it for 1-2 months. As
Sure.
we said with Wesley, it's like, okay, let's support it, but we just make
I
the release
see.
as a
Just
tag
with the
on
2
GitHub.
months.
Yeah, but
I see,
no
I see.
packages, no Docker image.
Okay.
If somebody need it, yeah, they can do it. Maybe Docker image is fine. A container image is easily to do, but packages is more complex.
Got it. Okay.
So, Eduardo, I think an enterprise is always trying to use the stable version, go through the cycles. If you only give the image and they want to use the official stable version, then as Wesley mentioned, one previous minor version, that will be go through the process with the patches. That would be useful, right? And they won't upgrade right away. It will take months for the large enterprises. So that's why we say we go formal. We recommend it go formal with previous one. For example, if right now it's 1.8, 1.7.x with the major fixes. I'm not asking you to fix all the problems, the major fixes, selective ones like I'll give you example. If there's a serve 2 issues, or serve 2 issues, or serve 1 issues, that the major functionality you want to backport to the previous version. If it's minor changes, you don't need to backport. That's too much work. So you can have a process to review it and say, this is the part we should consider merge, and to balance the doing everything backporting.
Yeah, because then also core changes will only be on these other. So they'll be like they could be significantly different versions, right? So 1.6 and 1.7 have way big differences in like multi-threading, SSL.
Yeah. For those, no, what I mean is I fully understand, Anurag. I think the fixes that the features is applies to 1.6 and 1.7 both. Then you consider this one. If the feature is only in 1.7, there's no point to go back merge it in 1.6 because it doesn't apply. That's why I say it's just a process in place to review it. Say this is applied to previous version. How big is the impact, or is a major impact? Is a showstopper? Merge it. If it's just minor, just leave it.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying it's black and white. You have to do everything. It's something we can consider to as practice as a review it, right?
Yeah. I think Anurag though does have a good point here. It actually might not always be easy. Because if you're saying you're giving patches back for an entire 6 months, the code base can change quite a lot. It's not always going to be incredibly simple, like, oh, this feature only exists in one series. Like you could get weird situations where the code is kind of, like they're different code, but it's not really a different feature. So you do need a fix in both, but it's slightly different code. I don't know. I guess I'm not the one doing it, so.
Yeah, actually backport to 1.8 we found, so even we are working on 1.9, so we are developing, it has not been released, and we push a fix or something, oh, this is affecting 1.8, and we match back. Sometimes it's not straightforward change, right?
Okay.
So this is what we're going to differentiate, because we're talking from an upstream development here, right? For a company who wants to run this for 6-8 months and want to be covered and be secure, what you need is a long-term support version, right? And at least, it's not making marketing now, but Kalitia, we're going to do that for our customers, right? And that is a bunch of work, right? So, but from the upstream perspective, I think if a company is really curious, running just every 6-8 months, you might go with a vendor, right? Because from the upstream perspective, that is a very tough job. You have to do validation, you have to do CI, test integration, performance benchmarks. It's not that easy. If the expectation is to run something for 6 months and be fully covered, I think that you should go with a vendor. that could provide you that kind of safety or that kind of insurance. For the upstream perspective, we cannot do 6 months. It's really hard because our development cycle is really fast, right? But I'm okay that we should, for example, I would like to, once we reach 1.9, right, we're not going to speed up until we close to some stuff. When we saw, yeah, we can maintain 1.8 for 2 more months with small issues, something that is affecting really users, and we create a tag for it. That's fine. But going beyond that is going into the LTS kind of scope, right? So, and I think that that's what we're not discussing here, right? We're discussing how to provide more stability for the development perspective, right? And how to normalize this in a document. And my take is like, yeah, if you speed up one thing, minor version, we're going to get problems with the major versions, and backporting will be a problem.
Okay. I think I'm personally happy with that. So if you're saying that upstream will do not for the full 6 months, but when like 1.9 starts for the first month or two, you'll still get patches on 1.8. And then if you want to do a full true long-term support, that has to be a vendor-owned thing. I think I'm fine with that.
I think
Actually, as an experience, we're getting that with talking about customers. We have customers that are asking for this kind of thing, right? And when evaluating this kind of project, it means engineering team, means more than the upstream resources that we have now. So that's what I'm saying. So Wesley, I think that we're pretty much, I would say, okay. My only take will be, let's make this kind of same version a stripped down version that works for us, right? Because concept will be familiar, but let's maintain just one version for even for 2 months. I think it should be fine, right?
Yeah.
But we're not going to backport features, right?
Yeah. Sorry, as a time check, I think maybe we can just add it into the issue, but I think we have a kind of go forward plan, and then we can just add to the issue and go up. I think let's go, Vishal. I know you wanted to cover the Fluent D TCP settings, and then we could probably do, if folks are open to it, maybe something just as an ad hoc November for improving the multi-line filter versus deprecating the multi-line.
Yeah, that's me too.
Okay, cool. So then, yeah, Vishal, if you want to go real quick, I know we only have like 5 or so minutes.
Yeah, definitely. So, hey guys, thank you so much for inviting me. So, basically, I work for the organization Autodesk, and like currently, I'm working on the Fluent D solution. We are using it heavily. So, what I observed, we have multiple Fluent D machines running in our infrastructure, and in front of these machines, we have network load balancer, and in front of network load balancer, we have the Fluent bit. So what I observed, like in the Fluent D in forward plugin, we have a property called linger timeout, and the default value of that property is 0. So what's happening now? If there is a finish request of the TCP connection from network load balancer to Fluent D, rather than finishing it properly, it reset it, and that's the property of linger timeout works accordingly. But the problem is, if we set it 0 by default, then it claims that there will be packet drop, because the general scenario of finishing the TCP connection is about it will basically finish it properly by following all the steps, acknowledgement, finishing this kind of a step. But in this case, it's not following this, rather it's resetting the connection. And for that, whatever the packet we have in that TCP connection will be dropped. I have seen it, I have observed it, and like we have some packets which are basically lost by keeping this value 0, and it impacts the performance also. So what I did, first I modified the value of the linger timeout, just make it some higher value rather than keeping it 0. It basically minimized the reset count, but still we have. Then I went through some documents of the TCP, and the TCP document says we should never reset the connection at very first time. Rather, finish it first, and then whatever we have apart from the finishing, we should reset it. So for that, I created a document on Medium, and I basically presented what problem I faced and how did I solve that problem by increasing the timeout. So my thing is like we should have some more TCP settings very smooth by nature. So it means like we should focus on the TCP connection very highly, like how it's basically resetting and why exactly it's resetting and what will be the best way to reset it rather than hard reset it at very first time. So that I focused on. And I discussed about this with Anurag very first. And then I got the opportunity to talk to you guys about that.
Vishal, would you please put all that documentation in these meeting notes? Maybe you can put a link, and Medium might not be the best way to engage with the community. Maybe you can open an issue on GitHub so we can take it from there. Because also when touching the networking defaults, we are not aware about what changes our users are doing, right? So let's try to come up with a kind of there are two ways to fix it. Maybe in the code, maybe as a good practice as a documentation, or improving documentation for different use cases. So just please open a GitHub issue with the same content, and we can take it from there. So we can pick the maintenance of that part. I'm not maintaining that part. Say, hey, this is the issue that Autodesk is facing. This is the proposal. How do they fix it? And maybe others will say, no, I got this issue. Maybe it was different. So we can try to come up with a generic solution or some customizable solution for the user.
Sounds good. Sounds good to me. I will definitely do in that way.
Awesome. Thank you.
Please. Thank
So
you.
I just added your Medium article there too. Yeah, I think this was great. Thanks for writing this. This is we need more content like that. Okay, I would say for the multi-line filter, deprecating multi-line filter, maybe we could do something before the next meeting, which is 1 month after. I'd be open to doing it. I think the US gets into the Thanksgiving holiday where the next release is. So we might want to delay it a week or so. So I would propose maybe an ad hoc community meeting for 30 to 45 minutes just on the multi-line piece, and then 1, 2 to 3 weeks after for just continued agenda items. So if no one objects, I'll go ahead and schedule some of those things.
When will that be?
I was thinking not next week, but the week after on Thursday.
Okay, well, so I'm gonna email Eduardo at 30 minutes because like I'm trying to work on the multi-line filter right now. I'm not gonna
Okay.
wait weeks
Sure.
to make, so
Yeah, I'd say then maybe we just do it ad hoc and then we can just update folks on what happened to multi-line filter the next meeting.
yeah,
Wesley, why we don't get into a call today? Maybe after 2 hours, if you have time. So
Yeah.
we can speed up this.
yeah, that would be great, actually. I would be free then.
Okay, so ad hoc and then we'll report on it in the next community meeting. I think that's good.
Okay, thanks, Anurag
Right.
and Eduardo. Bye.
Yep. Thanks all.
Okay, thank you guys.
Bye for now.